So you had complaints from one programmer who said you guys are basically stealing people's stuff and not paying them, and then he wound up murdered. What was that?
Also a great tragedy. He committed suicide.
Do you think he committed suicide?
I really do.
And his mother claims he was murdered on your orders.
Do you believe that?
I'm asking.
I mean, you just said it. So do you believe that?
I think that it is worth looking into.
I haven't done too many interviews where I've been accused of like.
Oh, I'm not accusing you at all. I'm just saying his mother says that. I don't think a fair read of the evidence suggests suicide at all.
You understand how this sounds like an accusation?
Of course. And I certainly, let me just be clear once again, not accusing you of any wrongdoing, but I think it's worth finding out what happened.
It looks like a suicide to me.
Why does it look like a suicide?
It was a gun he had purchased. It was this is like gruesome to talk about, but I read the whole medical record. Does it not look like one to you?
No, he was definitely murdered, I think. There were signs of a struggle, of course. The surveillance camera, the wires had been cut. He had just ordered takeout food, come back from a vacation with his friends on Catalina Island. No indication at all that he was suicidal. No note and no behavior. He had just spoken to a family member on the phone. And then he's found dead with blood in multiple rooms. So that's impossible. Seems really obvious he was murdered. Have you talked to the authorities about it?
I have not talked to the authorities about it.
This has to be one of the wildest interviews I think I've ever seen. If you want to see more on the Suchir Balaji case, then stick around and go ahead and drop me a like, as well as subscribe for more and drop me a comment, because this interview is absolutely bonkers and Tucker Carlson is holding nothing back. Suchir Balaji was a 26-year-old researcher who worked at OpenAI for about 4 years, working on the fundamental data gathering for ChatGPT-4. His mother has publicly shared that her son had become deeply disillusioned with the ethics of the company, and he later resigned and became a full-blown whistleblower speaking out against them. The cause of death was a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but some of the aspects to this case, they really just don't seem to add up. On November 18th of 2024, Suchir was named as a custodial witness in a giant copyright lawsuit between the New York Times suing OpenAI for copyright infringement, saying that they had stolen the life's work of thousands of journalists and created a product to compete directly with them. Now get this, only 8 days later, on November 26th, he was found dead in his apartment from a self-inflicted gunshot wound with his own gun. His apartment was deadbolted from the inside. The surveillance camera that was videotaping the front of his apartment, the wires were cut on the surveillance camera. A wig that wasn't his was found with blood in it, as well as having blood in multiple rooms. There was no note to indicate that he was going to hurt himself, and there was actually missing security camera footage. Suchir's parents are convinced that it wasn't self-inflicted and that he was actually killed, and they've hired a series of private investigators to investigate the situation and have commissioned an independent autopsy because they didn't like the results, as well as lobbied for an FBI investigation citing alleged inconsistencies such as missing security camera footage, as well as injuries suffered before his death that may have indicated that he was tortured.
After the first set of information that came out, I was really like, man, this doesn't look like a suicide. I'm confused. This
Okay, so I'm not being crazy here at all.
Well, but then after the second thing came out and the more detail, I was like, oh, okay.
What changed your mind?
Again, I think this is, I feel strange and sad debating this and having to
I'm not
myself seem
debating
totally
it,
crazy. And you are a little bit accusing me, but this was like a wonderful person and a family that is clearly struggling.
Yes.
And I think you can totally take the point that you're just trying to get to the truth of what happened, and I respect that. But I think his memory and his family deserve to be treated with a level of respect and grief that I don't quite feel here.
I'm asking at the behest of his family. So I'm definitely showing them respect. And I'm not accusing you of any involvement in this at all. What I am saying is that the evidence does not suggest suicide, and for the authorities in your city to elide past that and ignore the evidence that any reasonable person would say adds up to a murder, I think it's very weird, and it shakes the faith that one has in our system's ability to respond to the facts.
The person being interviewed, of course, is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, which runs the AI chatbot ChatGPT and is the largest private company in the world. To make matters even more murky, OpenAI has just secured a government contract worth $200 million, a contract that used to belong to AI giant Anthropic, whose product is called Claude. The recent falling out with Anthropic and the US government is due to Anthropic refusing to comply with the US government's insistence on domestic surveillance as well as autonomous lethal weapons. And Anthropic is trying to position themselves as the AI that is safety first, unlike their competitors. That means that one of OpenAI's largest partners is now the US government. So, does that mean that OpenAI, the largest chatbot in the world, is now going to be spying on us in consent with the government? And does that mean that having the government as a partner is going to make the Balaji case much more of a mystery? Now, we're going to get back to the Balaji case, but just for a minute, let's go ahead and transition and talk about Elon Musk. Elon Musk co-founded OpenAI with Sam Altman, hoping to make the company open source to help protect it from the dangers of AI.
How concerned is Sam Altman about annihilation, do you think?
I think in reality he's not concerned about it. I don't trust OpenAI. I started that company as a non-profit open source. The open in OpenAI, I named the company.
Yeah.
OpenAI as an open source. And it is now extremely closed source and maximizing profit. I don't understand how you actually go from being an open source non-profit to a closed source for maximum profit organization.
Well, but Sam Altman got rich, though, didn't he?
At various points he's claimed not to be getting rich, but he's claimed many things that were false. And now apparently he's going to get $10 billion of stock or something like that.
You make a lot of money, do you?
No. I paid enough for health insurance. I have no equity in OpenAI.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm doing this because I love it.
I don't trust Sam Altman, and I don't think we want to have the most powerful AI in the world controlled by someone who is not trustworthy.
That seems like a fair concern.
Yeah.
But you don't think, as someone who knows him and has dealt with him, that he is worried about the possibility this could get out of control and hurt people?
He will say those words.
Yeah.
But no.
One of the craziest interviews I think I've ever seen in my life. Tucker starts bringing up this guy who, a whistleblower, who, committed suicide, but doesn't look like it. He's talking to Sam Altman about this, and Sam Altman's like, "Are you accusing me?" He's like, No, I'm not. I'm just saying, I think someone killed him.
And it should be investigated.
Yeah.
Not just drop the case.
Seems like
They just dropped the case, yeah.
Yeah,
But his parents think he was murdered. The wires to a security camera were cut. Blood into a room. Someone else's wig was in the room. Not his wig.
Not normal to have a wig laying around.
And he ordered DoorDash right before allegedly committing suicide.
Yeah.
That's a very rapid change in mindset.
And especially the parents they don't believe he committed suicide at all.
He has no note or anything.
No. The idea that a whistleblower for an enormous AI company that's worth billions of dollars might get whacked, that's not outside the pale.
It is.
Sam Altman's reaction to being accused of murder is bizarre.
I don't know if he's guilty, but it's not possible to look more guilty.
Clearly, there's some type of beef or rivalry going on here, but some of you guys are big Elon fans, and some of you guys are not. So let's hear Sam Altman's side of the story and hear his thoughts on Elon Musk, because there's always two sides to the story.
Elon Musk has attacked you and all this. What is the core of that dispute from your perspective?
Look, I know he's a friend of yours, and I know what side you'll be.
I actually don't have a position on this because I don't understand it well enough to understand.
I really, for a long time, looked up to him as just an incredible hero and, great jewel of humanity. I have different feelings now.
What are your feelings now? No longer a jewel of humanity?
There are things about him that are incredible, and I'm grateful for a lot of things he's done. There's a lot of things about him that I think are traits I don't admire. Anyway, he helped us start OpenAI, and he later decided that we weren't on a trajectory to be successful. He kind of told us we had a 0% chance of success, and he was going to go do his competitive thing, and then we did okay. And I think he got understandably upset. I'd feel bad in that situation. And since then has just sort of been he runs a competitive kind of clone and has been trying to slow us down and sue us and do this and that. And that's kind of my version of it. I'm sure you have a different one.
You don't talk to him anymore?
Very little.
Now hold on, we're going to circle back to Balaji here in a second, but I just want to make this interesting point first. OpenAI has been receiving an extreme amount of friction lately, and there's a whole bunch of people and companies targeting them, trying to slow them down. Currently, Google, one of the most valuable companies in the world, worth about $4 trillion, and as you know, they are the king of search, and built on top of that search dominance is the largest advertising business on the planet. And it is the beating heart and main source of their $100 billion per quarter revenue. The problem with that is that ChatGPT and AI chatbots in general could bypass and leapfrog right over traditional search methods, making them completely obsolete. That's Google's entire business model. And Google, of course, is taking notes, and they have built their own competing chatbot, which is gaining a lot of ground on OpenAI, called Gemini. That leads me to say that not Google, but just about everyone and their mom is suing OpenAI, including the co-founder Elon Musk, who started the company, among many, many others.
Conference many years ago that you probably were at. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead. Will you help? No, subpoena for sample. No, can you take him off the stage?
Then we have Microsoft, another $3 to $4 trillion company, and Microsoft has a very large stake in OpenAI. They own about 27% of OpenAI and ChatGPT, and they also have their own competing AI chatbot called Copilot. The reason why Microsoft is actually very, very interesting is because at one point in time, Microsoft was positioned to be not only the Microsoft that they are now, but Microsoft and Google all in one. They had the #1 dominating browser, Internet Explorer, which is access to the internet. The reason why they dominate at #1 is because they package it specifically with the Windows operating system. And if you have the #1 dominating browser, then you are positioned to have the #1 dominant search engine. And if you have that, then all of a sudden you have Google's $100 billion per quarter advertising business built on top of that. That led Microsoft to become just too powerful. And the government actually, they didn't break it up over anti-monopolistic laws, but they forced them to sell off their browser so it wasn't the most dominated one. And that gave rise and gave the opportunity for Google to become Google. So Microsoft, with their 1/3 ownership of OpenAI, they're hoping to get back in the search game and actually leapfrog over Google and become the new dominant search. By the way, Elon Musk is known to have a huge beef with Bill Gates, the original founder of Microsoft. And when Microsoft obtained that 1/3 ownership of OpenAI, possibly, I'm speculating, but possibly that is the real reason why Elon Musk got all mad and ended up actually leaving the company.
Elon Musk and Bill Gates have a little dispute because Bill Gates shorts Tesla. He shorts it, meaning banks on Tesla doing poorly, and they have like a billionaire feud because of this. I just think it's like disrespectful for Bill Gates to short Tesla's position.
And so Bill Gates reached out to him and talked to him about philanthropy. And he says, "Are you still shorting Tesla stock?" Bill Gates says, "Unfortunately, yes, but I want to talk to you about philanthropy." And he goes, "I can't take any of your advice about climate change seriously when you're shorting Tesla, a company that's doing the most to affect climate change."
Circling back to the meat and potatoes of this video is Suchir Balaji. Now, after the death of her son, his mom, which her name is Purnima Romaro, has filed a wrongful death lawsuit, but not with OpenAI. She actually filed it with the apartment complex that her son lived in. Now, the reason why she did that is she requested some security camera footage. But when she requested 7 days of footage, they actually only sent her 2 days of footage. And there was actually missing pieces in the security camera footage. So her mom believes that the apartment complex is hiding something. And if they can secure this evidence, then they could possibly break this case wide open.
He was quoted saying that OpenAI was committing crimes, and a month later he was dead.
That's not just it. On November 18th, New York Times named my son as custodian witness. Custodian witness is very, very important. He had the documents against OpenAI. That was on 18th. 22nd, he just came back from vacation from LA and Catalina Island the same night. They have attacked him and killed him.
Let's get to the reason that I am anxious to do this interview, which is this report that you commissioned, Dr. Dinesh Rao, and it contains his analysis of the condition of your son's body based on an autopsy, I believe, and it critically contains 7 crime scene photographs that you took in your son's apartment. Is that correct?
That's right. There are 7 evidences that were very critical, which has not been picked up by the authorities.
The first thing that jumps out, and it's very obvious from the photographs that you took, is that there's blood all over the apartment. The official explanation is your son shot himself once in the head and the bullet entered the brainstem and extinguished life immediately.
Yes.
But these photographs show that that's not at all what happened, because there's blood all over the apartment. There's blood on the door, on the floor, in the bathroom. There's blood everywhere. That right there, just employing common sense, tells you that the person from whom that blood came, your son, presumably, did not have a fatal brain injury, at least when he was bleeding. I mean, something was going on in the apartment,
yes.
Right? The second thing that jumps out is that there is a tuft of hair that's
yes.
not hair. It's from a wig.
It's from a wig.
I mean, he was a 26-year-old man with short hair from pictures. He's not wearing a wig, correct?
No, he is not.
Right.
And these hairs are not his.
And the portion of the wig, the clip-in wig, has blood on it.
Yes.
And there's blood all over the apartment. Right there, I would say, maybe it's a suicide, but you're going to have to tell me how.
It's not a suicide. It's a homicide, obviously.
I just want to really quickly summarize the evidence that we supposedly have. Suchir Balaji gets a job at OpenAI. He works there for about 4 years. He sees some things that he thinks are maybe unethical, at least in his eyes. So he goes ahead and he resigns. And turns out he would become a full-blown whistleblower, calling out some inner aspects of the company. On November 18th, he publicly gets named as a custodial witness in a copyright lawsuit between the New York Times versus OpenAI. And he actually is named to have specific documents that are very important to this case. Literal evidence, right? Only 8 days later, he's actually found dead in his apartment complex. As far as evidence, we have a self-inflicted gunshot wound, supposedly self-inflicted, but it's shot with his own gun, right? The deadbolt to his apartment is locked from the inside, so we're assuming no one could get in. And a very short time before he was actually killed, we actually see him on the phone with his parents, and he actually orders some DoorDash, some food right before that. There's no note saying that he's going to hurt himself, which people don't always leave notes, but sometimes they do. We actually have blood in multiple rooms, which doesn't really make sense with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. There's a tuft of hair found soaked in blood, but the hair actually isn't human hair. It's a tuft of hair from an actual wig, and supposedly he did not own a wig. We have a security camera where the wires were cut. We have missing security camera footage because apparently there's missing footage at the apartment complex, which supposedly might hold the key. And then, of course, maybe the most interesting and suspicious aspect of this case is actually the timing, because only 8 days after he's named as a custodial witness, he's publicly named as a witness in a company that's a big tech company that could possibly displace multi-trillion-dollar big tech companies. He's found dead. Doesn't seem to make sense. Ooh, I don't know about you, but I found that interview to be ridiculously interesting. Guys, I had a lot of fun and I hope you did too. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about this, because this interview was absolutely wild. And of course, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more. And guys, make sure that you watch another video. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.